Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share how I adjust or balance my exposure triangle on my camera. So when taking pictures on manual mode, always make sure your subject is properly exposed by knowing how to balance your camera's exposure triangle. Okay, so these are shutter speed, which controls the motion on your photos. Number 2, aperture controls the light and depth of field focus on your photos. ISO is an electronic light booster of your camera, which is an artificial light booster. So first, think, what do you want from your photos? Okay, so number 1, still or moving subject. Do you want to freeze the motion or show the motion? You know that you should adjust your shutter speed. So from 30 seconds, which is considered slow shutter speed, up to 1/4000 of a second, which is considered faster shutter speed. Number 2 is deep or shallow depth of field. Focus on single or a lot of subject. You know you have to set your aperture to high or small f numbers. So the way it works is the f1.8 value, which is considered small value, but the whole of this aperture is big, right? So when you use this f1.8, you'll get blurry background and you get that bokeh effect on your photos. Now, if you set your aperture to f16, which is considered bigger f number, but this is smaller hole on your aperture. So this is gonna control the deep depth of field of your photos, which will focus on a lot of subjects. So number 3, does it need more or less light boosting? If shutter speed and aperture are set and your subject is still underexposed, then you have to adjust your ISO. So the way your ISO works is it's an electronic light booster. So the minimum ISO value is 100, which is clean image. Now, if you set your ISO to 120,000 value, it's gonna create more noise on your photos and it's not usable photo. You have to adjust your ISO when it's necessary. Now, I have a fan here as an example. Let's say I want to freeze the fan blade motion. I will adjust my shutter speed to the fastest settings, which is 1/2000 of a second. Then I will leave my aperture to f2.8 because my main focus is just the fan blade. And I want that blurry background effect, which is the bokeh effect. And because I have a faster shutter speed, my histogram and my exposure metering value tells me that my photo is underexposed. If you see it on my camera here, shutter or the exposure value is all the way to the right or left of the screen. So that means that your photo is underexposed. Now, so to compensate with this, with my current settings, I will adjust the third member of the exposure, which is the ISO. I will set the ISO to higher value to get a proper exposure on my histogram, to get that exposure metering value to 0. So watch out for the exposure metering value or your histogram. This will give you a lot of information during your shoot. I know it's a lot to remember, but once you master it, you can do it a lot faster. Tip: there are 3 shooting modes that mostly professional photographer use. Number 1 is manual mode, which is good if you're shooting indoor in a studio. This will achieve a certain look on your photos if you're creative. Number 2 is the AB or aperture priority. What is this AB or aperture priority? So it comes from its name, aperture priority. So your aperture, you set your aperture to, for example, f1.8 or f2.8, then your camera will adjust your shutter speed and your ISO automatically to balance your exposure. So TB or shutter priority means that you set the shutter speed the way you want it or the value that you want it. Then the camera will adjust the aperture and then your ISO automatically to get the right exposure. So experiment with these 3 shooting modes and use them at your own expense. Happy shooting. Bye.